Welcome back to the Football Outside the Box podcast where we discuss the past, the present, and you guessed it, the future of football. Yo, I hate talking about this right now because my side got knocked out of it, but it's a topic that must be discussed. Semi-finals of the Champions League. What do you guys make of it? What do you make of the matchups? And most importantly, who is going through? Christian, let's start with you since your team made it.
Well, honestly, I have to say, Arsenal fans, I I feel it very much for Arsenal fans. I really do, because I think they came up against a good Bayern team, although that has not been the topic of discussion. I've never actually seen a set of fans who, on social media and in the public sphere, there is such a vast difference in how they speak about their club, depending on what look like quite marginal results. Before, when the draw happened and we knew they were going to face Bayern, a lot of the talk was very positive. And it was, I think we can actually beat Bayern this time. We're going out for revenge. Our team is looking good. And all of that, I think, was very true. I think Arsenal could have beaten Bayern. And I think it was the most even matchup between the two in the last few years that we've seen them face each other. Now, after what was a very close two legs, I'm hearing the same fans say, "Oh, Arsenal bottled it, and we're not ready." And I think that that's unfair to what was ultimately a solid showing from Arsenal over the two legs versus Bayern. This Bayern team is not as bad as people want to make out. I think Arsenal were unfortunate not to go, but I do think the better side at the end of the day went through.
Theo, what do you make of the matches that we have now? Or because I want to talk about moving forward. I want to talk about the semi-final rounds that we have now to play. Theo, what do you think about the matchups themselves?
Well, we do have great matchups ahead of us. I feel like it's a very even game, the Dortmund against PSG. And I feel like now is the chance for PSG to clinch the title that they have been looking for years now. I feel like they kind of suffer a lot, at least in the French league, comparing to the other side, especially Marseille, because Marseille has won the Champions League, but PSG has not. So now is the time for them to go ahead and clinch that title, especially that given that Mbappe is leaving in the end of the season, to their rivals, their possible rivals in the final, Real Madrid. So I feel like that's going to be a very fair match between Dortmund and PSG, especially against the high quality football that Dortmund displayed against Atletico. It was incredible, especially playing at home. I wonder how you're feeling about it, Christian. But I feel like it's going to be a very fair matchup against them. And on the other side of the coin, I feel like Madrid has the clear advantage against Bayern. And I want to go ahead and say that I feel like Madrid are going to win both matches away and at home. I don't feel like it's going to be very challenging for them, considering they just beat City, they just beat Barcelona 3-2 in an exciting match. And I don't see Bayern with the same strength as the Spanish side at all. Not even close. I mean, they do have great guys if you look at the Bayern squad. If you look at the Bayern squad, but I don't feel like it's comparable enough. So I see Madrid winning both matches, and I see, Chris, and even though I do want Dortmund to win, I see PSG moving up because they do. I want to see that final. I know you guys haven't made it to the final since you last played Bayern. If I'm not wrong, it's 2012, right? 2013. 2013, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do want to see that matchup between Kylian Mbappe and his next club, Real Madrid. Let's see how the destiny is gonna play out, right? I wonder what you guys think about it.
I think
Yo,
what's interesting is that any final pretty much should be quite interesting. If we get Bayern PSG, it's a rematch 2020. If we get Madrid PSG, it's Mbappe versus his future club. And I would love to see Real Madrid give it to Mbappe in that final and say, yeah, man, come, go and get a little beating in the Champions League final again, and then you're going to come and join us. Just how
That's never
Real
gonna
Madrid.
happen.
That would
That's
be
not gonna happen.
incredible. It would just be classic Real Madrid. If we have Dortmund versus Real Madrid, is Jude against his old club? And actually, Dortmund, I don't think Real Madrid have played Dortmund since the last time Dortmund made it to the final. And they beat Real Madrid actually quite handily at home. And then obviously Bayern Dortmund is a huge matchup. It'd be an all German final again. So anyway it goes, I think we have a good story.
I know you as the Bundesliga boss wants to say that, but as far as Mbappe goes, yo, if Mbappe can go on and win the Champions League this season, like you said, Theo, what does that say for his legacy? Like for me, if he goes on to win this Champions League, for me, that's a huge statement for what he's accomplished as a player. It just shows that he's almost cemented himself as like he's done it as him being the star player. It's something that I've really criticized Neymar for not being able to step it up and take his team when he is the star player on the team. Now, if Mbappe does, he can cement that claim now today, and then he can go on and do his work at Madrid and, make the career he needs to at Madrid.
No, for sure. That would be a big statement for him, especially because he has already won a World Cup, something that Neymar wanted to win and he never got the chance to win, to be honest with you. We never got past the quarterfinals when he was playing. Brazil moved up to the semifinals in Brazil in 2014, but Neymar wasn't playing. But if you compare, Mbappe is going to be what, 24? And let's say he wins the Champions League, and then he already has a World Cup under his belt. So I mean, what are you gonna say about a guy like this? He's proving to be building his way to become one of the greatest for sure. I don't see Mbappe being technically gifted like Neymar, like Messi, like Ronaldo. Maybe Ronaldo is more like hard work than skill, but still, I feel like Mbappe is just that explosiveness. Explosion, sprint speed, quality too. He knows how to dribble. He knows how to shoot. But quality-wise, I would still give the edge to Neymar. But winning both the World Cup and the Champions League now, if he ends up winning it, that's a statement. That's a big, huge statement. And especially Mbappe, who's considered to be one of the rising stars, right? Who we think is going to come up to win a few Ballon d'Ors in the future. If you compare it to a guy like Neymar, then we can say that Mbappe is going to have the edge, not because of his skills, but because of everything that he has accomplished so far. But again, I want to touch on this, and because you already said it, Noah, that we have two German teams in the semifinals, and especially now that we see the Bundesliga on the rise, with an incredible Bayern Leverkusen side killing it at the Bundesliga and also doing like fantastic work at the Europa League. So I wonder, Christian, since you were a fan of the Borussia Dortmund, what do you feel like, seeing the Bundesliga under the spotlight right now?
I feel vindicated because I've always, for the last few years, I've been, talking with people. I've been on spaces on Twitter, being ridiculed for saying that, guys, Bundesliga is actually not this type of league that we want to frame it as. We know that Bayern has won it so many times in a row. And I think people look at that alone and they draw their own conclusions. I tried to make people see that actually the Premier League is a little bit more like that than people might want to think, because Man City are so clearly the strongest team in the Premier League. Liverpool was up at that level for a year or two, and so I think maybe that helped to sort of obscure the fact of the matter, which is that we have a league in England which is 19 teams and then Manchester City. I always try to say to people that the Bundesliga is a great league. And, it's a league with good teams that play good football, a league that has very good refs. And, the standard of refereeing, I think, is very high. I think that, just the models of ownership that the different clubs have with the 50+1 rule, where fans are the primary owners at these clubs, I think is a really positive thing for football. I think that it's such an enjoyable league for that reason. And even things from a fan perspective, and I know this might sound petty and whatnot, but if I want to go and look for some Premier League highlights, I will never find them. If I want to go and find highlights for the Bundesliga games that happened over the weekend, I can find them within 5 minutes after the game is done. You know what I mean? I think it's a league that prioritizes their fans, the people that make football what it is, and the players. So it's really good to see the Bundesliga teams showing what they can do, and they've been showing it even before this year. Even last year we had 7 German teams, I think, in the round of 16 in the Champions League, if I'm not mistaken. Might have to fact check me on that, but that was more than any other team. Obviously they all got eliminated in the end. Man City ended up going on to win it, but it's been shown that it's a very good league, and the other top 5 leagues out there have quality.
And Noah, how do you feel as a football fan seeing all those great matchups in the quarterfinals? I mean, if you look at it, all of the matchups were crazy. They were insane. Atletico Madrid and Dortmund, PSG and Barcelona, your side, Arsenal versus Bayern, and especially Real Madrid and Man City, man. How do you feel as a football fan to see all those great matchups?
I mean, I love it. That's why we love this sport. We love to see the big matches. We also love to see big teams versus small teams because we love the idea of an upset as well. Like, let's swing it back to the FA Cup that we saw this weekend with Man U versus Coventry in one match, and then Chelsea and Man City in the other match. Both matches were tight in different ways, and in this Man U versus Coventry match, we were literally within inches or centimeters of an absolutely historic comeback from Coventry City. So those types of things is what makes a game so amazing. And then when you have obviously the 2 big Goliaths going up against each other, obviously that plays as well. That plays a huge role in our enjoyment of the game.
I think that the quarterfinal matches, I think they started off with a bang. And I think that the 2 matches on what everybody would probably call the stronger side of the bracket, Arsenal, City, Madrid, and Bayern, I think the second legs of those matches were necessarily a bit more sort of reserved from the, let's say one of the sides, right? So in Arsenal's match, I think that Bayern was just sort of seeking to get a bit of control of the game. Arsenal did create chances, but once Bayern kind of got into their groove, I think it became difficult for Arsenal. It was difficult for them away from home, and for that reason, we didn't see a lot of goals or a lot of excitement in that game. Same thing with City and Real Madrid. I think Real Madrid, we know, sat back for a little bit, and for a lot of the time, and Man City wasn't able to penetrate them. Haaland was kept quiet, Foden was kept quiet, and for that reason, the game just wasn't what it was in the first leg. And there were still good matches, good tactical battles, and on the other side, obviously, we had a lot more goals. But it was just a great showing for the competition. And what a way to bow out as the last installment of this type.
I'm still frustrated at the call. I know I hate bringing up the ref and that stuff, but that lack of call for Saka's penalty completely changed the outlook of the game and the tie and how we could set up. Like you said, it was a tactical battle. We could have set up a completely different way had we had the opportunity to dispatch that in the back of the net. But let's not even discuss that right now, because I'm not the only team who has penalty issues here. Yeah. Nottingham Forest.
I'm glad you went there. I honestly, maybe this is a convo for another time, but I wanted to know what you made of the Gabriel call, to be quite honest. Because I heard a
The
lot.
handball.
Yeah, I really wanted to know your
I
take.
mean, I can say it quick. I mean, honestly, it like I didn't actually see, or let me not say I didn't see it in action. I didn't necessarily pay attention to it live, like because we do that so much. Like that, we do that on every goal kick. So it's not like this
No.
is like, oh, he saw the player come in, like I'm gonna pick the ball up, like to stop the
Yeah,
play. It's not like that. That's just how we set up. I don't know if it was like misunderstood on either side, but to me, if you're being technical, you can call it a penalty, but then call the other thing a penalty too.
Oh, bro, no, I'm not even, even outside of comparing it to the other thing. I've looked at Saka's thing a ton of times, and I feel like at the end of the day, that one is a penalty. But the one with Gabriel, I've never seen a call like this in recent times where I'm so on two sides of the fence. I really do not know what to make of it because I can get on one side, you know, in the spirit of the game, what they call the spirit of the game, I can see why the referee wouldn't call that because this is not a situation where a player is making a mistake when play is, obviously active. We have a situation where this is it's almost like a Van Persie type situation where a referee you would hope a referee would use their discretion and say that, okay, Van Persie can, hear the whistle, or he's heard the whistle a second too late or something like that, and he kicks the ball away. There is the letter of the law. I can also see how, if that was my side that happened against, I would want the penalty called. And I guarantee you, every Arsenal fan, if a Bayern Munich player did that on the day, or if any player did that in any match, they would want that penalty called. And that's why I can't split it.
Well, I have to be the devil's advocate here and instigate your minds because I do disagree with both arguments here. I do not think it was a penalty on Saka at all because Saka had control of the ball. He dribbled Neuer, but I feel like he went for the contact with Neuer, not the other way around. Not Neuer trying to foul or trying to stop Saka, because Neuer, he held his ground. He was stopped, and Saka moved his leg onto Neuer's direction. So that's why I feel like it wasn't called a penalty and it was the right choice. And about the handball, a handball is a handball at the end of the day, right? Doesn't matter if it's my side or Noah's side. Gabriel picked the ball up with his bare hands, and what does the rule say? It should have been a penalty, so a penalty should have been given. It's as simple as that.
Right there. So let me explain to you why first Neuer did not stand his ground, and I made that clear. Because for me, once the attacker gets a touch on the ball, if there is movement in between that touch and contact onto the attacker, then he's not standing his ground. If he stays still during the time of when the touch happens on the ball by Saka and the contact on Saka, then he's considered standing his ground. And if you watch back the clip, Saka takes a touch and then Neuer moves and then clips him. And that's why it's not standing his ground.
His leg was off the ground when Saka takes it. I can see why you say that though. And I get your point too on the penalty, Theo. Like I totally get it in terms of the handball. But then there's also a clause in the rules of the game that says a referee should use their discretion. And when I see that, I'm like, okay, I get it. It's a thing where when I look at it from the perspective of if that was my team on the one end and on the other end, I would be pissed if it was called against me. I would be pissed if it was not called for me. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know. If it was called against me, I would be like, really, ref? Like, how could you do that? Like, it's clearly not in play. If it's not called for me, I'd be like, bro, that's a penalty. And in such an important match.
Yeah, I mean, in my view, it's simple because Gabriel made a mistake and he should be paying for his mistake, Let's say if Gabriel passed the ball back to Raya and Raya picked it up with his hands, it will be called a foul, right? No matter what. No matter if he made a mistake, no matter if he wasn't thinking it through, or no matter if none of us realized, the ref would still call it a foul. So I feel like the same applies to Gabriel picking the ball up with his hands. Should be called a penalty. And again, what to touch on Neuer, I feel like Neuer was still holding his ground. I don't feel like he was looking for that contact. I don't feel like he was trying to stop Saka. I feel like Saka moved his right foot. I'm not sure if he was trying to get fouled by Neuer, but I feel like he was the one making the movement and looking for Neuer in the first place, not the other way around. So that's why I feel like it was the right call.
Like I said, the movement happens after the touch. Neuer's movement happens after the touch. I'm not saying he tries to get Saka or clip Saka. He could be trying to get the ball, but the fact of the matter is he was late to the challenge. It's simple as that. As a keeper, from your step off your line and you're in that 1v1 situation, you have a decision to make. You either take a high risk and you go and rush the attacker, and you risk two things. You risk getting beaten, or you risk giving away the foul. And or the winning risk is that you win the ball. So it's a high risk, high reward. And he chose the high risk, high reward as the sweeper keeper that he is. And he ended up losing that battle. And he should have been called the penalty. The Gabriel one, he does that every single goal kick, like it's a thing. If you want to establish that rule and call it as a penalty, then it should be called a penalty. But we've seen him do that. And Arsenal, we've seen do that play after play after play, and it hasn't been called. So to just randomly call it on this moment would just seem kind of outrageous to me.
I think a tough thing as well is like if you want to call if it's not a penalty, I feel like Saka has to be booked. But anyway, so just quickly, because we only have a couple minutes left, I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on the comments from Nottingham Forest. Like, we saw that they felt they were denied 3 clear penalties. It was 2 from my liking. I think 2 of them were penalties, definitely. And they've gone and made comments basically alleging that the VAR is a Luton fan and there was this bias. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
Well, first of all, how do you prove it that he was a Luton fan? And how are you going to overrule it? I feel like it's too far-fetched, even though that could be true. I don't know what you're going to do about it, you know?
I think it's a childish and absurd thing to do, in my opinion. Like, you're really going to go out and say, oh, the ref is a Luton fan. What do you expect people to do? Like, they literally said in the post, we warned PGMOL about them and we asked them to change him. They didn't change him. What do they want the governing body of referees to do? Like, to go and background check every referee and say, well, this referee is a fan of this team, this referee is a fan of this team. And then now you have a situation where you need to consider all of these crazy scenarios. Because if you have a relegation battle with 5 different teams, or a top 4 battle with, 4 or 5 or 6 different teams, all of those teams have to then be considered when you're looking at a particular ref. It's absurd and it doesn't make any sense. I think what should happen is that refs should be trusted and trained to be honest and to be fair, despite the fact that they support a particular team. They're human beings and everybody is going to support a team.
That's what I was thinking too. It's just too hard to, as you said, background check everybody. Like, I wonder if they need to look elsewhere in another country or something. But even then, you could find people who are fans of Prem teams.
It's absurd. Anyway, crazy weekend of football, crazy week and weeks to come. And we're really looking forward to it. So we'll be back again next week, don't it?
That's all we have time for today. Guys, thanks for tuning in as always. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. Remember to subscribe, to leave comments, and share with your friends. Follow us on social media at FOTBpod. Don't forget to leave a review, rating, and most importantly, don't forget to turn on those notifications. Join us again next time as we discuss the highly anticipated upcoming Premier League action. Thanks again as always. See you then.